Doesn't know me, I'm Jack. I'm affiliated with Middlesbrough Roller Derby in England. I do recognise a few of the names here, so thanks for joining tonight. If you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat and I'll try and see them. I'll just get started. So tonight we're talking about jam timing, which is definitely for me one of the best roles in roller derby, because you get to shout at people. You get to blow whistles. You're in the centre of the track, so you're in the centre of the action, and you get to play with some stopwatches as well. So I think it is the best role, but I do understand that a lot of people worry about jam timing. So that's why I've been asked to talk about it tonight. So I thought I'd start with confidence. Confidence is a difficult one, isn't it? I think we all struggle with it at times. And I think the fake it till you make it is almost a bit cliche, but I think that is definitely a strong thing that you can do is, you know, if you step up there with confidence, look like you're confident, nobody knows that you're not confident. I think, you know, the amount of times that I've made mistakes while jam timing, I've reset my clock many a time. You just kind of carry on and nobody knows that your stopwatch is reset. You know, I think the whole thing of skaters get 7 penalties, refs get official reviews. So why are we expecting NSOs to be perfect? None of us are perfect, we're all human, so almost accept that you will make mistakes. People won't remember your mistakes, I promise that. If you think about how many times you've made mistakes, I bet you can think of 20, 30 maybe, I don't know, lots of mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes, I know that I remember them. But if I try and think about mistakes that other people have made, I can't think of them as readily. So I think, you know, we're all our own worst critics sometimes, but you're just there to facilitate some roller derby. And as long as you're doing your best, nobody's going to mind. And if you make a mistake, you're going to learn from it. So yeah, that's what I've got in confidence, so hopefully that helps a little bit. But just honestly, don't let confidence hold you back, because if that's what's holding you back from being a good jam timer, then, you know, if you can get past that, you'll be a great jam timer. So you're talking about the whistles. So you've got 3 main whistles, your rolling whistle. Choo-choo type. I know that's not a really good impression, but that's the one probably that most people will struggle with. I think the big thing with whistling is just practicing. What I did when I first started jam timing was I used to sit in the car and just practice my whistles. Nobody was watching me, you know, I'd just drive along whistling away, and it really does make a difference to just have somewhere where you can go and practice. If you've not got a car, you could go to the park or somewhere where people aren't around. Just practice your whistles till you're confident with them. I went through a big period before the pandemic where I lost complete confidence in my rolling whistle. I had a bit of a bad time with the crew head NSO, kind of undermined my rolling whistles. So at one stage, I actually had refs doing my rolling whistles for me for a period. It took me a while to get my confidence back with that. But there is always people that can help you out with that and give you advice on how to improve your whistles as well. You know, talk to refs. They whistle a lot, so they have good advice on doing that. And as I say, there's always someone willing to help you out. Whenever I asked a ref to do the rolling whistle for me, I never had a problem where someone wouldn't help me out with that. The start jam whistle. It's a very sharp, quick whistle. I think a lot of people get a bit confused because with the refs, when they give lead, they do a longer whistle, but with the start whistle, it should be quite a sharp toot. And then obviously end jam is the 3 sets of 4 whistles. When I first started, I was trying to do 4 breaths, and it was horrendous. I've been there. But just again, practice doing the action whenever you can, and it will improve. So if you stopwatches, I definitely recommend getting a countdown stopwatch, because there's nothing worse than trying to do maths and trying to match up with this scoreboard. There's nothing worse. I've turned up and been given jam time when I wasn't expecting it, and have been given a normal stopwatch, and you just making your life so much harder. There is cheap stopwatches that you can get that do count down as well. Have a look around, ask for plenty of NSOs will give you advice on what stopwatches they use. Definitely, if you can, get yourself a countdown stopwatch. I would generally recommend having the same stopwatches for both, particularly if you're going to be using one hand. I use two hands so I have one stopwatch in each hand. The advantage of using the stopwatches in one hand is that you've then got your 5 seconds, you've got your clear 5, but I just take the hit on the not having your 5 seconds showing when I'm resetting the period clock, because I'd rather have one in each hand. My personal preference. But yeah, if you've got the same stopwatch and you're using one hand, you can press both buttons with the same finger, which is what some people do. Does anyone have any questions? Because I am running through what I've got quite quickly here. No. Okay, so hand signal. So we've got the official review. Is your circle hand signal. Now, I generally do my hand signals for a minute, because by that point people know that the official review is happening. So I'll stand on the pivot line and I'll do the official review signal for about a minute, and then I'll go and have a rest, because there's no advantage at that point. Everyone knows you're in official review. You just time yourself out, really. Team timeout, big T, and then point to the bench, wherever it is. And then official timeout, we know, shoulders. Again, I'll only do that for about a minute, and then I'll have a break myself. I think that's only fair. Other hand signals that I'll use. So communicating with the scoreboard, I'll be telling them whether the official review has been lost or retained. So for retained, I do a fist, and then lost, I do that. But whatever you do, however you want to tell it's up to yourself. I also do jam called for injury. Now, this is one I've picked up from America. So it is American Sign Language, and I do called for injury is this. Is injury in American Sign Language. And then if I do any clock adjustments, I'll do a little whirly either up or down, and then obviously show the seconds. If it's more than 10 seconds, obviously I'm going to have to approach the scoreboard or ask a ref to approach them. But they're the main hand signals that I'll use. Now, I know this was asked recently about the official clock. So the official clock is the one that is on the scoreboard, what the bench is and everyone can see. So what you've got in your stopwatch isn't what everyone's going to be basing their decisions off. So always go off the scoreboard if you can. If there's a massive difference between yourself and the scoreboard on the line-up period or something like the line-up time, I would generally go with my stopwatch. But if it's within a few seconds, I'll go with what the scoreboard shows, because that's what everyone's going to be looking at. I have seen some jam timers, and I've done it myself once in a sevens tournament. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily, but some jam timers will actually not use stopwatches. When I was at playoffs in Seattle, the jam timer didn't use stopwatches, and it was nerve-wracking, particularly when the scoreboard went down. And I was like, what are they going to do? And they tried to carry on because they thought they could get the scoreboard back up. But it was a bit crazy. But yeah, that is an option. You don't have to have stopwatches if you're confident with your scoreboard operator. And your ability to adapt to the situation, say because your clock isn't the official one, that is an option. But obviously, the reason why you have your stopwatches is if the scoreboard is wrong, you can update the scoreboard with the correct time, and then that will be the official time there. So communication is my next point. So there's different people you're going to be communicating with on the day. The first is that I've wrote about is refs. One of the good things that I like to do, which I kind of feel is good practice, is to tell the refs when it's 10 seconds. If the refs are having a conversation in the lineup period, before you go to 5 seconds, give the ref a 10-second warning. That gives you a good indication of if they're going to be ready in the next 10 seconds. Rather than going to 5 seconds and then having to call an official timeout, which confuses people. If you can get an idea of within 10 to 5 seconds, that it's going to be an official timeout. Got the official timeout rather than calling 5 seconds. I also let the ref know when the period has expired. When the period clock's expired, if it's in the middle of the jam, just so they know when that period did expire. If anything came from an official review or anything like that, it could help them make a decision whether they needed another jam, for example. If you needed to communicate about a delay of game, as a jam timer, I would generally call a delay of game penalty, but you might need a ref to go and issue that if the captain is in the bench area. Sometimes it's quicker and easier to send a ref who's obviously on skates rather than you trying to walk over and issue that. If there's any team timeout issues, for example, if it's not the bench that's called the team timeout, or if they've used too many, that type of thing. Always have a little chat with the front IPR to see about positioning, if you're going to be in their way for if it's a pivot line start. Sometimes it can be a bit difficult to not be in the front IPR's way, so just have a quick chat with them about where they'd like you to be if it is a pivot line start, and also talk to the refs about who's going to whistle for the team timeout as well, because obviously if they call the team timeout and you're not ready for it, it's going to cause problems with stopping the period clock. So it's a good little chat to have before you start. So with NSOs, the main one you're going to be talking to is obviously the scoreboard operator. So say we discuss what your hand signals are before the game, so they know what to expect during the game. And I always try and check in with the scoreboarders at half time as well, just to make sure that they're getting everything they need from you. So with the skaters, I've just put, there's nothing worse than when you do your roll and whistle and the whole pack takes off, particularly if you're on the track. Been there a few times, unfortunately, particularly juniors or new skater. They get a bit keen and they go. So what I do in them situations, or if that's happened, is I'll give them this whistle does not start the jam warning. And then just before I do the 5 seconds, I'll say the next whistle starts the jam, just to set the scene. Sometimes as well, if skaters are crowding me on the pivot line, I might give them a warning that I'm going to do a loud whistle in a second. Sometimes I'll do a loud whistle because they're crowding me, but and then benches as well. I think it's a good idea to introduce yourself to the benches before the game as well, particularly for benches that will do a timeout at 5 seconds. There's quite a few benches that will call their timeouts an official review at 5 seconds. So if they know it's you that they need to approach, that's going to limit any communication issues there at 5 seconds. So it's always good to know who the benches are for yourself, to know who's going to be calling them, but also for them to look out for you as well. And what I've put next is just about practicing. Just practice whenever you can. Get down to if you're affiliated with a league, get down to your practice and just give it a go. Pick up a whistle, see how you're feeling with it, and just keep practicing. You're not going to be perfect straight away. Nobody is. As I've mentioned before, taking your whistle in the car at the park or something like that, and just having a practice with it. And I've also put as well about safety is sexy. So invest in some earplugs. I've got some musician earplugs, which are a lifesaver when you jam timing. I think it's so important to protect your ears with the whistles as well, which is I'd recommend to any official really, but particularly when you are jam timing. And that is all I've written down. So hopefully some people have some questions, because I've rattled through everything.
This may seem like a little bit of a silly question, but with the 2 stopwatches, what exactly are you doing with the 2 stopwatches? How do those both?
I can't hear you.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, I couldn't hear you there. I don't know what's going on with my speakers.
Can you hear me now? No?
Hang on, let me try connecting on my phone. That might be better.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can't hear you now. I can ask my question and then you can go back to the computer. So my question was, with the two stopwatches with jam timing, like what how do you juggle these two stopwatches? Like how are you doing? That's always the most intimidating thing for me, I think, is the juggling part of it. Oh, we still can't hear you. Okay, all right, cool.
Okay.